So the anti-vax woman in that video is trying to use an unhoused individual as a prop in her propaganda, and he just yells out, "'Cause I'm vaccinated, you," and then it gets blanked out. Well, that individual is Ray, and some people, activists, tracked down Ray and set up a GoFundMe to help Ray find some housing. And as of when I screenshotted this morning, they had raised $31,814 for Ray, doing more good in this one fundraiser than all of everything the anti-vaxxers have done. So Sabrina, thank you for telling me about that. It's still up, by the way, if people want to help, but I love that bit of good news.
No, yeah, it's so exciting. Definitely, the user behind Film the Police LA was the one who sought out Ray to, get his permission to even get this GoFundMe together, and then through the People City Council were the ones who really helped push it. And I think because of that, that's how the fundraiser got to be, so high. I don't think anybody expected it to reach 30,000. And even in the screenshot that you just posted, there is a $5,000 donation by a James Kimmel. Do you think that's Jimmy Kimmel? Do you think?
I guess that's gotta be Jimmy Kimmel, right? I didn't notice that. That is amazing, Sabrina, that you noticed that. I guess it probably is. I guess we'll find out tonight on his show. I assume he'll probably talk about it. We'll find out. Anyway, thank you for letting me know that. And it's still there if anyone would like to give. Sabrina, as always, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Where can everyone follow you?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me again. I love being on here, even if we're not purple. But you can find me on youtube.com/Abelina Sabrina and twitch.tv/Abelina Sabrina.
Thank you, Sabrina. Have a good one.
You too.
And for all of you at home, thank you for watching. We got a big week planned. Senator Nina Turner will be joining us tomorrow. Maybe we'll have that emoji. Check back tomorrow on YouTube and find out. But either way, a lot of fun to be had. I will be joining Cenk Uygur on the first hour of the Young Turks, leading that hour. So definitely stay tuned for that. But until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. Good to be with you. We have a lot of show today. Joining me in the bullpen is none other than David Grasso, host of Follow the Profit with David Grasso, labor market, minority business ownership. We'll talk about things like that. Also, breaking down news of the day, we got the big homie Ben Carollo, host of Galaxy Brain, and he streams on Twitch as Bleep Blomp Ben, writer, TYT contributor. All right, top story today. Let's take you to an amusement park, Six Flags. Six Flags, a place where you're supposed to enjoy family opportunity. Here's what happened. There's a guy who works for Six Flags. He's dressed like a cowboy on stilts. He has a lasso. I know this is already sounding horrible. But it's Six Flags, right? No issue, nothing inappropriate. Well, according to the witnesses, this particular employee of Six Flags decided to lasso a young child of color, a young female child of color, tie the rope around this kid, and then tell everyone that she is in fact on sale for $1 at Six Flags in front of her family and patrons of the amusement park. Let me take you to the state of Georgia. A young lady named Mackenzie Hurt, told 11 Alive News that her children were harassed by a man in costume who was working at the park. When she spoke to 11 Alive's Joe Ripley, she held her children tight after the traumatic experience. Ms. Hurt said she had been at the park for about an hour and a half when the family was walking toward a ride. She said they saw a man on stilts, dressed as a cowboy with a lasso in hand. Hurt said her son and daughter walked up to the man because they were interested in the tricks he was doing with the rope. I'm sure for kids, very fascinating stuff, right? You're at an amusement park, this guy's there for entertainment. It's amusing, you're interested, you walk up to the guy. Here's what happened. Hurt said the man roped in the kids and made a disparaging remark about siblings getting married in Georgia. Okay, now you're starting to get weird. These are children you have never met before. They don't know you. You're getting weird. I get weird vibes at this point, but it gets even deeper. He pulled the rope tighter around my daughter, and then that's when he proceeded to say he had a girl for sale for $1. Hurt said she reported the encounter to customer service, but according to the mother, the manager said that type of experience, and I quote, happen all the time, especially to Black and Asian kids. To be a parent and kind of see your child helpless is not right. That's according to the mother. The mother also said nobody should ever have to go and feel so low and humiliated like that, and then treat it pretty much like trash. I want to bring your attention to corporate insensitivity because yes, this is the action of one person, okay? This is what we call a bad actor. Then after it's exposed, there's a corporate responsibility. You know how many Black people of color go to Six Flags? I used to go to Six Flags all the damn time, okay? Those are your patrons. Those are the people you should honor in your decisions. So when this was brought to the attention of corporate, what did corporate do? According to the report, Six Flags sent 11 Alive this statement in response to the situation. We have zero tolerance for any form of racism, discrimination, or hateful behavior. The character in question, now watch how they throw him under the bus without taking responsibility. The character in question is a third-party vendor and not an employee of Six Flags. You mean the third-party vendor that you hired? Okay, I got it. And not an employee of Six Flags. We will conduct a thorough investigation into this matter and take appropriate action. A representative from Six Flags refused, okay, refused to tell the local news agency which company the man worked for. They said it's a private contractor, a vendor, refused to tell them the name of the company, or if he was currently working at the park, which means he probably is still employed, or 3, how the park handled the situation at all. Violation, violation, violation. This isn't serious to corporate management of Six Flags, but we're going to make it serious, okay? So what has Six Flags told us? This company says you can be racially inappropriate and even sexually inappropriate with children. Remember, his first joke was about a sexual encounter between a brother and a sister. So you can do that at Six Flags, no problem. Six Flags will still protect that company. You know why they're protecting the company that hired this individual who contracts with Six Flags? Because Six Flags will likely still do business with this company. And they're not telling us any information about sensitivity training or maybe an enhanced vetting process, nothing. You simply get a general statement from their website. Ben, what are your thoughts here?
This is just absolutely unbelievable. And it's honestly, like, it's disgusting how many people think that racism is a joke, right? They think they're being cute or funny or whatever when they do something that's just unbelievably, gratuitously, and disgustingly racist. Especially it speaks to the history of the violation of the bodily autonomy of black folks in America, because do we really need to go through like the history of like how black people in America have been systemically like sexually assaulted like throughout our history? It's just an unbelievable sort of non-understanding that I think the public has about the real gravity of how truly like racist the United States has been throughout its history and through to today, where you see people like this trying to make a joke out of it. And the fact that Six Flags isn't doing anything about it. I mean, seriously, like, I don't care that they're an employee of Six Flags and that they're at Six Flags, right? If you're running around literally lassoing children, especially without the consent of the parents, right? I feel like the criminal charges would be in order in that situation.
Yeah, it's definitely unwanted physical touch at some point, right? It's up to the parents to press charges. Now, some more background in this story, Ben. The mother says she simply wants an apology. No, damn that. This is why lawsuits are necessary. Lawsuits are necessary to hold corporations accountable to the behavior of individuals like this. And hopefully through what we call tort law, you can also send a clear message to others. Now, if this would have been one incident, right? One incident, it won't make my show. It would not have been on Indisputable. But there are multiple incidents behind this one incident. There are multiple complaints against Six Flags for racial insensitivity. And the way Six Flags as a corporation decided to handle this by not handling it is the reason why we're bringing it to the attention of the masses. It takes everybody working together in a progressive manner in order to root out not only systemic bias, but also systemic racism in this country. Now, that's microaggression. Let me take you to macro aggression. It's international. In the UK, black man, not breaking the law, but still this happens to him. Here it is. Okay, that white van, those are the police, unmarked. They roll up on this black male. He has his hands up. They smash his window. They drag him through the glass. And they do injure him, cut him in this process. I mean, seems like overkill, right? A van full of cops pulling up on a black male suspect in the car. You would imagine they must have some information here. He must have done something wrong, right? Let me take you to the UK. Innocent black man says the police used excessive force and he was completely innocent. Let's put up a picture of Callum Lothar. There he is, okay? So here's the background. Mr. Lothar was driving home from a local McDonald's and wearing pajamas when he encountered the police. Officers jumped out of an unmarked vehicle, the footage shows it, smashed the windows of his car. Out of fear, Lothar put his hands up, thank God. May have been shot dead if he didn't. I put my hands in the air because I did not want to get shot. I was scared. But officers dragged him out of the passenger side windows, which caused numerous cuts and gashes on his hands, arms, and feet. He was cut up pretty bad. He was then pinned against the grass on the ground with an officer's knee in his back. It gets deeper. Lothar said he was left bleeding in the back of the police car for 3 hours, 3 whole hours. He requested medical attention, but his request was denied as officers explained. Intelligence indicated that he had a firearm and said they had 2 warrants to search his home. Officers searched his home, they found nothing. Police then told Lothar, oh, you're free to go. We've beat you up, we've destroyed your vehicle. You're in a bloody puddle in the back of a police car, but you know what? You could go now. You're free to go at this point. Lothar was taken to the hospital by officers where his hand was stitched and he was given a tetanus shot. His car was left hundreds of dollars in damage and is at least not working right now. And his phone was also damaged after the officers threw it to the ground. He did nothing wrong. He did absolutely nothing wrong. Let me tell you why this is interesting, because a lot of people think that racism, and I know many of you don't, but there are some who do. They believe racism is just really, really potent in America and nowhere else. Well, there was no justification for this to happen in the UK. This was a black male inside of a vehicle. They had the wrong guy. They had the wrong man. They investigated him. They went to his home. They were hoping to find something. I mean, that would have really justified the big mess up of destroying his vehicle and trying to destroy him in the process. But they found nothing at his home. They found nothing in his car. They found nothing on his body. And then they don't even arrest him at all for anything, not even obstruction, disorderly conduct. That's what the American police would have done. All right, Ben, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do. They get this misconception, that this idea that like, oh, in like Europe or in Canada and stuff, that there's somehow magically less racist there. But people forget, right? Like the racist history of the United States literally started with the colonization of the United States, right? Canada has treated indigenous folks just as badly as the United States has. And ultimately, like, yeah, there's a lot of anti-blackness in the UK, and you see that in their policing. Now, they're not as policed as the United States is, but I bet if you looked into their numbers, you'd find very similarly disproportionate rates of incarceration and violence from police officers towards black people in the UK.
Yeah, well said. Let me take you to another incident, New Hampshire. There's a woman charged with threatening a 9-year-old black kid. Did you hear me? A 9-year-old black kid. She called this kid the N-word and also threatened to stomp on his neck. A 9-year-old black kid, a child. This woman is facing a civil rights complaint after authorities say she threatened this 9-year-old child. Calling him the N-word and saying that she would kneel on his neck. The Attorney General, all right, the New Hampshire Attorney General is now involved. John M. Formella announced that his office had filed an enforcement action against Christina Graper, 51 years of age, of Dover, for violating the state's Civil Rights Act. The complaint, filed Thursday in the Stratford County Superior Court, claims that Ms. Graper threatened the 9-year-old boy referred to as DH in court documents. According to the filing, this kid and Graper's son were playing in a neighborhood park on May 10th when Graper's child pushed DH and caused him to break a foam missile or foam bullet. If you have a child, you know exactly what that is. That belonged to Graper's child. Graper's child then ran home and told his mother what happened. Okay, kids are playing and something breaks. It's a damn toy. All right, it happens. They're supposed to break. They're not built to last. It gets deeper. Afraid, DH ran away. But the defendant was able to catch up to him, the complaint states. The defendant, grown-ass woman, 51 years of age, threatened the 9-year-old DH that she would kneel on his neck. A bystander identified as AP heard Graper threaten this kid and attempted to intervene, telling Graper that her behavior was, and I quote, unnecessary. Graper allegedly responded by yelling at AP as DH continued to return home. Remember, the kid is running away from this deranged 51-year-old mother. He allegedly heard Graper scream the N-word at him as he's running away. The defendant denied telling DH that she would kneel on his neck, and instead she recalled stating words to the effect, "You wonder why you guys get effing kneeled on." You guys? Wait a minute, so let's come back to me. Let's take her account at face value, which by the way, I believe the 9-year-old, not her. But let's just say it happened the way she says. You guys get kneeled on? 9-year-old children. This is why they get killed, according to this woman. Okay, it continues. She also denied calling DH the N-word, but later stated it was because they do not know how to shut their N-word pie holes. I mean, she later admitted, so she's saying, I didn't call him the N-word, I said N-word pie hole. That makes a difference. That's different than just the N-word. She said this. The state is seeking judgment of $5,000 from Graper and a temporary restraining order prohibiting her from further civil rights violations up to 3 years. I am glad the Civil Rights Division of New Hampshire has gotten involved. Typically, every state has some civil rights statute. It is rarely utilized. It is rarely prosecuted. It is rarely implemented because these are civil penalties typically. Ben, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, anytime that there's any type of public outcry about a particular instance of violence, right, against Black Americans, you have right-wingers and these reactionaries literally use that as a massive like public trauma to point to threaten people with, because that's literally what it is. It's a reference to somebody, like she's talking about somebody that was murdered and using that to threaten a literal child. And it's just a really horrific reality that exists in the United States today that it's shocking to see, but not surprising.
Yeah, very sad. And once again, systemic racism, cultural bias, looking at a 9-year-old child as a grown man somehow, saying this is why you guys get kneeled on. This is a baby. This is a baby, all right? Okay, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in it.
Yay, crunch berries!
And I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, I don't know, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years,
Right.
believing that it was actual berries. Yeah. She's like, these aren't real berries at all. Yeah. I'm like, I got news for you. Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person. Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you gotta force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to green with Aspiration's fossil fuel-free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
What Donald Trump has done as president has cut taxes for the wealthy and made life better for rich people. But he's made life worse for poor people.
We're making America great again by throwing more money at the military to destroy other countries because that makes us great instead of investing it in ourselves.
That it's Donald Trump and it's Stephen Miller. The choosing is based on wanting to create cruel and inhumane conditions to scare other people away from ever coming to the United States.
The opportunity to make money off of tragedy is the American way.
There is only one place to put garbage people: in the trash.
We've never had so much access to so much information with so little idea of what the hell is going on.
What does enforcing our borders have to do with traumatizing children? Absolutely nothing.
I think a sane person could say the current situation we have right now is radical. But what we're doing is literally making the world more like hell. That's a warning sign.
ShopTYT.com now has books. One of them is Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People. That's a saying that AOC said, they've got money, we've got people. It's the best tracing of the AOC victory I have seen anywhere. It's the most accurate, and it's got great details. The book actually goes all the way back to Jesse Jackson and how he's the original Bernie Sanders. If you want to know how we're going to win going forward, those lessons are super important, and they're in Ryan's book. So check it out right now at ShopTYT.com.
We found the perfect person to lead the army, Allison Hartson.
The establishment media works hand in glove with our corporate legislators, and our corporate legislators work hand in glove with the corporation. And we're going to make it so that it's a decentralized force throughout the country so that we can quickly identify stories, quickly identify troll farms, and go in and neutralize the enemy, and then start building responsible media throughout the country and on every platform available.
All right, we got a lot of show left. I want to remind everyone that today is the last day to vote. I would love to have your vote, okay? Today is the last day to vote in the Best of series for Atlanta Magazine. This show has been nominated Best TV Anchor 2021. We'd love to have your participation. It's real simple. Go to tyt.com/Rashad. tyt.com/RASHAD. Type in my name, Rashad Richey. As a matter of fact, when you start typing in my name, Indisputable, Dr. Rashad Richey, Indisputable may pop up. If it doesn't, just go ahead and type the name in fully and vote. Or if it auto-populates, click that auto-population, okay? This is it, and I think it ends at 12 midnight tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I appreciate you in advance again. Also, the conversation, don't forget, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, tyt.com/live. And you can always go to the YouTube page, get all of those amazing interviews and also debates. There are some interviews that just transformed into massive debates. It's quite amazing to watch, all right? youtube.com/TYT conversation. All right, let's get to some of these amazing comments. TYT member, Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. Bad enough roping her like a steer, but to say he was selling her like a slave. How stupid and or uncaring can one person be? Just really ridiculous. I mean, come on. And I don't understand why these companies keep saying, we do not tolerate racism and we're looking into the matter. if I was the CEO of any company, I'm not telling you what I'm fixing to do. I am telling you what I have done, okay? That's my statement. It doesn't take long to figure this out. All of the patrons agreed to the story. Everybody said, this is what happened. Okay, Cray Souffle. Man, if this would have happened to kids at Disney World, Disneyland, my Lord, would the lawsuit be gigantic and mega news, except on ABC. That's right. All right, potion seller. Been voting for you daily, Rashad, hope you win. Well, bless your heart, potion seller. And if we do, we'll be because of people like you. Thank you. YouTube super chat, Jim Adelberg, 6 Confederate flags. That you're actually close, by the way. There's a whole background to the flags. Mike V, NH is listed as a sundown town for black folks. King T, hope you had a blessed weekend, Doc. Keep holding it down, brother, so we can do better for the future generations. And that's the idea. That's the idea. And thank you for that. Thank you, Trudy, for the super chat. Rosie, when dude said the incest stuff, I would have gathered my children and left. I know that. I mean, just serious weird vibes, right? Extremely inappropriate. Courtney, thank you. Resubscribe for their 11th month. Nas Costademus, resubscribe for the 9th month, saying, fire the employee, press charges, fire the vendor, retrain everyone. Boom! It's actually not complicated, is it? Bits, Tree Mu Batiki, 300 bits, thank you. Cherry Berry, why does all this stuff happen in Georgia? I have to live here and I'm so tired of this nonsense. I know, man. FM, you just want an apology from a corporation. The apology is what opens them up to a lawsuit. So you aren't getting that. I know. You know, and here's the thing. Some people will walk away just with an apology and never sue. That's not holding them accountable, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You wanna call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free, back off!
I'm gonna tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
You're holding up the line there, Karen.
Shut the up, you bitch. Record me all you want to before I spit on you.
Oh no, Karen. Is that saliva out your mouth there, Karen?
I'm automatically a Karen because I walked up to
No, Karen, you're holding up the line. I need my McChicken and my McNuggets. Get out the line there, Karen. I'm gonna need my McChicken, my fries, and my drink. Get out the way there, Karen.
Shut up, you fat bitch.
Oh, stop that, Karen. I need my food to get more fatter, Karen. Watch out the way there, Karen. No, Karen, you're holding up the line there, Karen. Yeah, get out of here now, Karen. Thank you very much there. Forward on.
Karen in my business, you stupid bitch.
Forward on with those gun fingers there, Karen. All right, Karen.
This is a different kind of anti-Karen, but his strategy seems to be effective. We need all strategies on our side here. So this particular Karen, here's how the story goes. She was walking up to the drive-through window in order to make a complaint about her food. So she decided to stop the line because obviously she can break in the line as long as she's walking. Once again, another element of Karenicity. We're starting a book. So this was perfectly fine. And the guy who's being inconvenienced by the Karen decides to basically troll her in real life. And what does it do? Well, it's actually quite effective. She did end up walking away while at the same time exposing her level of Karenicity. I really was trying to keep a straight face, man, but damn, that was hella funny how that guy, it's almost like he planned this and was waiting on the right opportunity to do it.
Yeah, he had this in his mind. Like he was ready. He's like, I've got my camera ready. I'm like, anytime I go in a drive-through, I just keep it right there just to be ready to film. No, truly an American hero. Like honestly, absolute legend, absolute legend. And we're all gonna have to remember this strategy. It's very important. And I really can't get over the fact though, like focusing on the Karen in question here. Like what would compel somebody to get out of the car in a drive-through, right? Like sitting down yelling isn't enough. You got to get out of your car, and it just like, look, public service announcement. Okay, retail workers and fast food workers, they probably work harder than you. They definitely work harder than me. Okay, so give them a break, please, for the love of God.
The hardest job I had in my life. I used to wait tables as a teenager. I worked at Pizza Hut, Applebee's, Ruby Tuesday. The hardest job I had, it was called a full service Pizza Hut. And they don't really have those anymore, but it was one of those restaurants back then where they served beer, wine, salad bar, all kind of different items. And it was a sit down restaurant, right? Sun up to sundown, because I was trying to work everybody's shift. It was the hardest job I ever had, right? Very difficult. Sometimes I had off days like anybody else, but I also ran into some very nice people. Now I will say this, I never did it, I never engaged in it, but I knew some people who did. If you're mad at a restaurant and you start cursing out the people who are preparing your food, now I know grandmama taught you better than that, because those people hold your life in their hands. You would come back with all kind of extra sauces in your food. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't understand why Karens don't get that. All right, call corporate, use the 1-800 number, file a complaint, send an email, but don't argue with the person who's literally preparing your food. Not a good idea. All right, I got something for you. Double dose.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
You're still free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
No, hey man, I don't get why you guys are being so aggressive about this. I've asked you to stop using that. They're not allowed. You're making my life difficult. Everybody that lives on this block, we can't have our windows open. Just because this house wants some leaves removed doesn't mean that you guys get to break city ordinance. I don't care.
We don't care either, bro.
All right.
All right, so watch out who the f*** like that, bro. Thank you, one, bro. I'm gonna let you know right now. Public does, I'm gonna go bro.
All right.
Bro, I'm not him, and I'm not the one in charge.
Who's in charge then? Dude, are you gonna get in my face? All right, I'll leave. I'll leave. I'll leave.
What's up, bro?
Hey,
what's the word?
I'm gonna leave.
What's up, bro? What you gonna do?
I'm leaving, man.
Right,
I'm getting out of your face.
I
will.
Cause I'm not the one, bro.
All right.
All right, bro.
All right.
I appreciate it.
All right.
We're working hard, bro.
All right.
For you to come us, bro.
All right. I'm getting out. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here, man. I'm getting out of here.
He did say, I appreciate you. I mean, that has to be something. Okay, I do not condone violence. No violence happened in this video. But I will say this. When you're recording, I mean, remember, the Karen in this story walked up recording. And it seems as if he wasn't aware that the individuals he approached were, I don't know, working their ass off. Okay? This is a code enforcement issue if you're saying that they should not be in the neighborhood with leaf blowers. And I don't know any community that won't allow leaf blowers. Maybe that's an HOA policy, I don't know. But sir, to the male Karen in this video, everybody is not going to just walk away from you. Everybody's not going to understand you trying to become somebody you're not, like the police or a code enforcement agent. You're none of that. You're not even the person they're working for. Why did you approach the work crew when I'm sure you could have knocked on the door? There's a neighbor right there. Probably send them a letter. Maybe even you report them to the HOA. But this is the work crew. They got hired by your neighbor. If you have an issue, take it up with your neighbor. Instead, you took it up with the right one. Okay, Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if you don't like the way your neighbor's taking care of their leaves, I think it costs like $10 to go buy a rake at Walmart, okay? Like, so I'm just saying.
Plenty of work to go around.
Yeah. And like how hard it is to call your neighbor, like, hey Bob, can you not do it on Sundays? Cause or like, at 4 p.m. my kid's down for a nap, whatever. Like, okay, sure, buddy, right? Like they can try and like schedule, but that's not gonna happen unless you have a conversation with them, not some random worker who's just trying to do their job, and like it's that simple.
Yeah, and listen, landscaping is very difficult. I've done some of that work in my past as well, man, and I worked with an uncle of mine, and especially when the weather conditions aren't, mild and very comfortable. But here's the thing, and you brought it out as well. You have a neighbor. The neighbor is the one who hired them, but instead, he approaches the work crew as if they work for him, or as if he has some level of enforcement authority. He has none at all. But you have to imagine that there's a reason why he decided to approach an entire work crew of color rather than approaching the homeowner or making a substantiated complaint through the proper channels. And remember, he came there recording. He wanted to make a scene. I know a scene was made the other way around, but he's the guy who brought the camera. He wanted to show all of his friends, his neighbor, and whoever else, look what I did, look what I said. Look at what I was able to do. No, look how they made you look really silly in the process of trying to confront an entire work crew about a matter that could have been handled appropriately in another way. That's all I'm saying, all right? We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories. Gee, I wonder why we didn't get $15 minimum wage. Because they're all raising money from the guys who don't want to increase the minimum wage.
And we play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcasting cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The Republicans say, we will serve our corporate masters at all costs, including killing democracy, yet here we are. Where else do you hear that? You hear that on NBC, on ABC, on CBS? You hear it nowhere.
They don't want to talk about money in politics because it's really hard to pass judgment when your media organization is funded by fossil fuel companies.
The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. And we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
I'll continue to sit. I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed.
The president labeled him a son of a bitch.
I don't think it's good
to be a distraction to your team.
To stand proudly for the national anthem.
You know, some of these people need to move to another country.
Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
The president is put in place to amplify the racists in this country. Black men and boys are killed at an exponentially higher rate than white men and boys, as outlined by PBS. Black people are most likely to be killed by police, found mappingpoliceviolence.org. Personally, my biggest gripe is not seeing how sports and politics have been attached at the hip. From the jockey syndrome, to the Negro Leagues, to Tommy Smith and John Carlos, Muhammad Ali, to modern day and everything in between. This is not an escape. It is a reflection of reality and a reflection of the times.
Everything that we've accomplished over the years is because of our members who've allowed us to remain independent of corporate interests and reach 20 million followers. Now is the time to bring as many people into the progressive movement as possible. We're inviting you to be the change and help bring a community-powered progressive change machine to life. Details are at tyt.com/change. If you're a member, thank you. We need you to remain so. If you're one of the thousands of viewers out there who's not a member yet, the time has come for you to join now. We need you more than ever. tyt.com/change.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of comments. Let's get to it. I appreciate the engagement. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. Am I evil for laughing my effing A off at that Karen being called out by the man behind her? No, not at all. Okay. Dana Manning, yay, the Ben laugh. Ben was laughing, yes. Electric miscellanea. The dashboard on the car of that guy who's calling out the Karen at the drive-up window says, warning, approaching object. What we really need is a car that warns the driver, warning, approaching Karen. YouTube super chat. JTVJ, she asked for a bad day, give it to her, LOL. Freedom fighter, this dude is hysterical. He called her out with the quickness, it was funny. Directive, you're not allowed to use the drive-through on foot. I mean, now you need to have signs, I guess, right? Danger Mouse, thank you, resubscribe, tier 1 for 7 months. The amazing Andrew gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Iree has resubscribed at tier 1, saying Rashad, I'm a big supporter, have been voting. Keep up the good work and clarity. Thank you for that. Bama Raider 12 has subscribed for 11 months, saying, so only one more month before my TYT Twitch 1-year birthday, having a great day soaking up Dr. Richie and Ben's knowledge. Awesome, thank you. Tachi Dragon, I was reading California just banned all small gas engines so they can move there. All right. You ever seen a grown man have a breakdown after committing a criminal offense? So according to the narrative, there's a place called Hennessy's at Dana Point, Orange County, okay? This individual, based on the witnesses, he decided to grope another member of the wait staff. Well, they kicked him out, as they should. Here's what happened.
You're not arrested. Call him. You weirdo. Go. 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 Who the f do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who the f do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who the f? You! I need cops here right now! Give me a cop! Give me cops at Hennessy! Please, right now! I'm not touching him.
So we're having a good day?
Data point! Oh this guy just made me look private, man.
So we're having a great day.
I'm so done. Just please give me a copy. Where's my card?
You threw it out of your hand.
Give me my card.
You grab it. I'm not touching.
Go!
Grab it.
Grab your card.
What, man?
Grab your card.
You're weirdo.
You're the one who grabbed the chick's ass, bro. You grabbed the chick's ass, not him. So
whose ass did I grab?
The server.
Whose ass?
Pick up your
Bring
card.
her out here, man.
Pick up the card. Pick up the card.
Please send a cop here.
Now, obviously, this is a serious situation. Sexual assault is a serious crime and should not be tolerated. The restaurant did the right thing by kicking out this guy showing extreme levels of Karenicity at Hennessy's in Dana Point, Orange County, okay? That's what happened. Now remember, he gets kicked out. He could have just left. But instead of leaving, he decided to exercise what he thought was privilege and call 911. What are you calling 911 for? You're the only person who committed a crime. So he calls 911, and in his rage, he throws down his own credit card after first leaving it inside of the restaurant. They were still nice enough to bring him his credit card. He threw it on the ground and then demanded that they pick it up. There's a significant level of audacity here. Let me give you some real facts about the harassment experienced by those who work in the restaurant industry. More sexual claims in the United States are filed in the restaurant industry than any other industry, where as many as 90% of women and 70% of men reportedly experience some form of sexual harassment in these industries. Restaurant culture still praises the customer as always right. Qualitative studies show that service employees face harassment and mistreatment from customers on a daily basis, but often refrain from complaining or reporting these incidents. When they do, management tends to ignore them or change servers instead of confronting the customer. Well, in this case, they confronted the guy. And I'm just speculating, but before he got to the point where he grabbed the butt of another woman, before he got to that point, it probably escalated until that happened. It is a sad culture. If we're talking about protecting those in service industries, those in restaurants who are working hard, we also have to make sure that we are for protecting them by eradicating the culture that makes them uncomfortable and subject to criminal assault. Sexual assault, sexual touching, unwanted touching is assault. I don't care what context it happens in. If it's unwanted, it is assault. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, your point about the culture is very, very correct. And there's actually a very specific cultural history of the United States, which is why he thought that calling the police would be the smart move for him, and he thought the police would be on his side. It's because the reason why there's so many like jobs out there that are tipped work, a lot of any job basically where you have workers that are tipped, historically is something that has been done by people of color for the most part. That's one of the reasons why they have a sub-minimum wage, because we live in an incredibly racist system.
Right.
And so he thinks he can call the cops because he's like, what do you mean I can't treat a waitress as some sort of object? He's upset by that because the culture that we have in the United States very much has supported that notion. And honestly, a lot of restaurants wouldn't have kicked him out. To be very honest, a lot of restaurants, the management team basically has the same sort of dehumanizing view of their tipped workers, right? Of their waiters and waitresses. And so kudos to that restaurant for actually being willing to kick this person out, because I know a lot of restaurants wouldn't.
You make some great points, brother. I remember a few years ago when the Me Too movement was at its height, right? And naturally, I've always been an individual who promotes the culture of transparency, the culture of protection, especially those who are generally harassed. So we knew this was problematic. We knew that women in particular were being harassed by powerful men, sometimes men that had no power. It was happening at the workplace routinely. Here's what I didn't know out of my own ignorance. I didn't know that it happens to most women. I didn't know that until I had a conversation with the women in my life, with my aunt, with my mother, my adoptive mom, with my friends, right? I had those conversations with them, and I remember intentionally looking at a documentary and then calling every single one of them because I wanted to know, had they experienced this before? Brother, when I tell you that 100% of them said the same thing? Not one exception. Not one exception. Here I am trying to be an advocate as best as I can. And there's this blind spot in my life. I did not realize this was happening to virtually every single woman who has ever held any job, or even those that did not hold a job, but they worked around men. It's a culture that must be corrected. We have to challenge it, and many times we have to bring it to the court of public opinion. Okay, I said this would happen. You see, Trump is a cult leader, okay? He's a cult leader. And he has a group of individuals in this country, and even a few outside of the country, who are willing to do whatever he says. But he also wants real political power. Again, he doesn't want just a following, he wants all of it. Now what they're going to do, I want you to see the strategy politically. They're going to use a martyr. Watch how they do this. There's a commercial basically that Donald Trump has made. It's a personalized video, but it's really a commercial. His audience is not the family of Ashli Babbitt. That's not his audience. He says that's his audience, but his audience really are right wingers, okay? Let me show you the video, then I'll give you some background. Here it is.
Ashli Babbitt, a true. It is my great honor to address each of you gathered today to cherish the memory of Ashli Babbitt, a truly incredible person. To Ashli's family and friends, please know that her memory will live on in our hearts for all time. She defended our nation overseas, including in Iraq, to fight in the war on terror. On that horrible day of January 6th, Ashli arrived at the United States Capitol. She was shot and tragically killed. Today would have been her birthday. Happy birthday, Ashli. Happy birthday. We're looking at you and you're looking down on your family and on us. Together we grieve her terrible loss. There was no reason Ashli should have lost her life that day. We must all demand justice for Ashli and her family. So on this solemn occasion, as we celebrate her life, we renew our call for a fair and nonpartisan investigation into the death of Ashli Babbitt. I offer my unwavering support to Ashli's family. Like all Americans, you deserve a fair process, you deserve answers, and you deserve justice. Thank you for being here. God bless you, God bless Ashli's incredible memory, and God bless America.
While unfortunate that a person lost their life, it is worth mentioning what former President Trump did not, is the fact she was involved in a terrorist attack. And she was killed because she was trying to breach a secured area. This is settled. Now they are rewriting history. They are rewriting the narrative because they have to talk about a person due to the fact they have no policy. So they're going to make this a personality agenda, a person-centric agenda, and not a policy agenda because they have no answers. They have no remedy. They cannot fix what they have broken. Ben, what are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, this is terrifying, right? These right wingers are literally willing to make a martyr out of somebody who is literally attempting a coup. And if Donald Trump wants to blame anybody for the death of Ashli Babbitt, to be honest, he has no one to blame but himself for instigating this sort of distrust in the election, this sort of extreme reaction to the simple fact that Republicans are deeply unpopular and they lose elections. And even when they win elections, they tend to lose the popular vote, and they can't handle that reality. And then you have Trump coming in, instigating them into distrusting our entire system. And it is legitimately terrifying because unfortunately it does seem like Trump and his tactics and his words are gonna put more fuel on the fire.
Yeah, watch how all of the cronies, they will take his direction, and this will become the new narrative. This will become the new messaging campaign, everything. All of this will start to happen, and it will happen pretty quickly. Very sad. The reason why Ashli Babbit is dead is because Donald Trump was president. That's why she's dead. Okay. Anti-masker, this is crazy. Anti-masker gets in the face of a young kid at a cell phone store. Here's the video.
You need a mask now. No, I don't need a mask. You need a mask now. No, I don't need a mask. I have a medical condition that prevents me from wearing a mask. I have a doctor's note that says I have a medical condition. Where is it? I don't have to provide it to you. The law says that people with disabilities are protected. By the law, you do not have to reveal what your disability is.
She's talking hogwash. Stores have the right under both statute and settled case law, common law, to enforce basic policies: no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. Well, this store has decided to exercise their policy rights, and then this happens. Well, here's the thing: it's not happening in a silo. It's happening all across America, where you have common sense business owners who are exercising a policy right they have had forever. And now these anti-maskers are treating employees this way, and some are even committing acts of crime, destruction of property, physical assault. And Ben, this damn near got to a physical assault situation with the woman being in this young man's face like this. Once again, all stems from the political rhetoric created by the former administration.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, like tying into the last story that we just did, it's really terrifying because, I mean, there were a bunch of anti-maskers that stormed like a school board meeting, and literally a couple of schools went on lockdown because anti-maskers were storming in, and it's terrifying. It's the part, like literally we have people who are running around calling themselves like, oh, patriot, oh yeah, I love America, freedom. And the schools are literally going into lockdown because of what they're doing. And it is very terrifying to say the least.
Yeah, Ben, always a pleasure having you on the show, giving your insight. Tell people how they can check you out, follow you.
Yeah, the easiest way is on Twitter, just at Benjamin Carollo, where you can stay up to date with pretty much everything that I'm doing.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new TooStrongCoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at TooStrongCoffee.com/TYT.
That's 300 million, that's a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world. We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day.
We looked at you like, are you nuts? Young Turks has just passed another milestone. 15 billion views. Damn. All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Rob Shively. What do you know? Rob says, rejoice for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Jenkins Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce, 1971, saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
right, let me do a little quick plug here. It's not even a plug. I'm bragging, okay? I'm bragging. Watch me. We have a channel on YouTube, a whole channel devoted just to the Young Turks. It's badass, right? Wow, man. I can see the void.
You guys are rock stars.
Unbelievable. Senator Sanders, welcome to Rebel Headquarters. Man, you guys are amazing. We gave you what you wanted. Okay. Speaking of shirts.
I have a surprise.
You reached a lot of people. You are the Young Turks. And we have spread that progressive message wide and far. Let's keep it going.
Here's what we do. We go beyond the headline. We are willing to engage in transparent conversations with those who do not think like me. We also make sure that you know what's happening not only nationally, but in your local area. Make sure you tune in to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time.
Cool news, shoptyt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's fantastic. It's a story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living the American dream.
All right, welcome back. We have a lot of comments. Before I get to those comments, let me remind you that today is the last day to vote. Today is the last day to vote. Real easy. We have been nominated for Best TV Anchor by Atlanta Magazine, Best of 2020. Real simple to participate. We'd love to have your vote. Today is the last day. I think it cuts off at 12 midnight. Go to tyt.com/Rashad, tyt.com/Rashad. Type in Rashad Richey in the box or what it auto-populates into and click there, hit vote, you're on your way. All right. And don't forget the conversation live today, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, tyt.com/live before the Young Turks, and you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do that. Fascinating stuff. YouTube.com/TYT conversation. All right, here are the comments. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. Amazing that a COVID idiot anti-masker says a mask restricts her breathing while screaming nonstop without losing her breath. Yep, I believe her. Jambo Gino, people who lie about having medical problems or disabilities just because they don't want to wear a mask are the absolute worst. That's right. All right, thank you, Vanna, for resubscribing. 3 months, thank you. The one and only, maybe King or KG, a male elder family member of mine believes that if a woman is sexually assaulted, it's her fault or probably lying about it. She should have stayed home. He identifies as a black Republican, but there you have it. Eric the Red, I want to give that young man a hug. He manages to stay calm, but his hair must be on end during this encounter. Yeah, App Happy. He said he was going to drain the swamp, yet he brought in the slime. Twitch. About the guy who groped the waitress. Bernie Webbed. Wait, he's calling the cops on himself? Exactly. And the way he's yelling at the 911 operator. Dissident PM, the toxic masculinity just oozes off this guy. Yeah, Tony Stark. We all need to carry those clown flowers that squirt water. So when Karen gets too close, squirt away. What's funny is that may actually work. That may be very effective. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, we have David Grasso, host of Follow the Prophet with David Grasso. Good day, David, how are you?
Hey, it's always great to be here in the bullpen with you, Doc. How's it going?
It's going well, brother. Glad to have you back, man. We're gonna chop it up about the labor market and black entrepreneurship or minority ownership. I don't want to presume what you know or believe about those topics, so I will give you an opportunity to tell us your sentiment.
Well, I think the big problem with small business across the board, especially for minority entrepreneurs, which, as you know, minorities like Hispanics and African Americans are more likely to be entrepreneurs out of necessity or because it just comes naturally to us in our communities. We're regulated the same way the big guys are. And it's a big problem because, if you try to regulate small businesses the same way you regulate big businesses, you put them at a strategic disadvantage. Additionally, the COVID shutdowns didn't make the situation any better. In fact, if you look at the statistics, a lot of black and brown owned businesses closed during the pandemic and the big guys' market share just grew. So we're facing a crisis here, especially given that small business is the engine of job growth. So if you want to talk about people who actually employ other people in their communities, you have to talk about black and brown entrepreneurs.
Really interesting because it was actually under a Republican president where you had a lot of systemic failures as it relates to black and brown owned companies. And while we can talk about regulation really wasn't the catalyst for why businesses failed during COVID. It was because of the natural consumer customer flow. It was interrupted. But here's what regulation did hinder a lot of minority owned companies. 99% of the companies that qualified for the PPP loan and other opportunities through the massive stimulus were not black owned. And the vast majority could not even qualify because when the bill was written, it did not contain caveats for the reality of Black and brown owned companies. So in a way, regulation definitely played a part in that, but they were able to overwrite regulation, which they did, by the way. They literally put in the bill overrides to regulation for that larger companies took advantage of that smaller companies could not. So once again, and I'm not blaming all Republicans and I'm not blaming all Democrats. I'm saying both of them have failed to address the reality of small Black owned, what we call micro enterprises, and how they are kept out of major legislation like this. Would you agree?
I think it's a bipartisan issue, definitely. Okay. And I think that a lot of our policies, while well-intended, tend to breed bigger is better. We see in our economy, whatever sector we're talking about, they're dominated by just a few players, and they all have lobbyists in Washington, D.C. I'm pretty sure a Black-owned business in your community doesn't have a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. So the rules are being written by the victors, and it only exacerbates existing gaps. And I think that's a bipartisan problem, and I think it's fair to blame both parties, including the party currently in power.
Yeah, so let me bring some numbers, and those that watch my show, they know these numbers like the back of their hand, but I'm always fascinated how we dismiss them so easily. Because you have left-leaning policies, you got right-leaning policies. Some policies, you really can't tell the difference between the two parties because they're serving a major corporate interest, right? But let me give you some numbers just based on Black families and their income, okay? So under Democratic presidents and left-leaning policies, Black families' income grew on an average of almost $1,000 a year, but grew only $142 a year under Republicans. Black unemployment fell by a rate of 7.9% across 26 years of Democratic presidents, but it actually went up 13.7, almost 14% under Republican presidencies. Across the years of Democratic leadership, Black poverty declined by a net of 23.6%, but it actually grew 3 points when Republicans held the White House. Literally, Black people get poorer, Black people make less money when a Republican and right-leaning policies are implemented. The numbers are very similar, by the way, for Asians and Latinos in the same matrix. And during the previous administration, while there's a number that people like to use, it's called the U3 rating system to say more Black people had technical employment. The truth is Black people made less in household median income under the Trump administration than they did under the Obama administration. So these are all problematic numbers, right?
Well, I think one of the big mistakes we make, and let's just say for a moment that these statistics are accurate. One of the mistakes we make these days, especially because of the way media works, is that we only attribute things to a federal policy. You're sitting in Atlanta, Georgia, which is home to one of the biggest stories that's not being told right now, which is Black entrepreneurship is flourishing. And where are these people coming from? They're coming from places like where I'm sitting right now, Los Angeles, right? And they're migrating to places with less regulation, with lower housing prices, et cetera. And you can see people literally voting with their feet, going to places that, well, Georgia's a blue state or a purple state, or perhaps a red state, depending on the day and which way the wind is blowing. But not everything is national policy. In fact, local and state policy, as we know, we have a federal government. Most rights are left up to the state. And states that are more pro-business, like Georgia, Florida, and Texas, are blossoming. And I believe minority communities are doing much better in those places than they are in places like California and New York.
All right, well, let me tell you, brother, I appreciate your belief, but your belief is wrong. The city of Atlanta is the #1 city for wealth disparity between the rich and the poor. We are a top 10 city in the city of Atlanta for homelessness as well. And we are listed as one of the most expensive cities to live in the United States of America. So when you say, oh, this is because of deregulation or pro-business attitude or them having some kind of matrix or a system that would attract small businesses. No, we're attracting big businesses. We're attracting major multi-billion-dollar developers. We're attracting Microsoft. We're attracting Coca-Cola, Home Depot, and others, while at the same time artificially increasing mama them's property taxes, which leads to gentrification, displacement. That's what's happening in the city of Atlanta. So you are incorrect about your feeling, brother.
I guess here in California, if you want to explore the counterfactual over here, is what I see is that every year there are less Black people in California. Why is that? And a lot of it has to do with the left-leaning policies that we have here that are admittedly very well intended, right? Giving people health care, giving people a living wage, helping out with housing. But here we're end game. This feels like late stage capitalism over here, right? Where, there's homeless people marauding the streets. And while, we have a lot of black leaders in California, it seems like the constituency is less and less black. If you look at Maxine Waters' district, which is a hop, a skip, and a jump from where I'm sitting right now, every year it's less and less black. And a lot of African Americans are migrating to places like Arizona, Nevada, Texas, Georgia. And it's because housing isn't affordable here. Life isn't affordable here. And it's pretty much impossible to start a business here. It's too competitive, it's too expensive, and it's too hard just to be an entrepreneur in a place like this.
All right, so let me ask you this question, because I think it's important to have a policy discussion as it relates to what governments can do. Now, we know naturally that a government cannot and should not do it all, but we pay into a taxation system. And because we pay taxes, that means that we should get something out of it. It is the transactional art of politics in America. But when you look pound for pound, brother, I mean, just item for item, black people paying into the taxation system, they get less. They get less under Republican leadership. Let me give you an example. You and I agree that job training programs or technical education works, right? You don't necessarily need to have a 4-year degree to make a great living in America, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, tell me this, if we can agree on that policy, and you're a conservative leaning guy, you agree on that policy, why is it that Republicans tend to defund those training programs, those workforce and workforce development programs, and Democrats tend to increase the funding over those programs? 93% under Democrats, and then only 7% increases under Republicans. Why is it that we can come to the same conclusion about what's the catalyst for growth and jobs, and then have very adversarial methods for getting there?
I think you're describing the reason why I'm a registered independent and not a registered Republican, is because things like job training, childcare, et cetera, actually makes us more economically competitive. The cost of healthcare is actually an economic problem beyond a human problem as well. Of course, all of these factors make us less competitive economically. And I guess that makes me a true free marketeer, in which I don't really have a home right now because neither party is doing that well.
That is interesting. So I'm a guy who believes that we must make our dollars make sense. Let me tell you what doesn't make sense to me. Have you ever heard somebody go before Congress and say, it would be a great idea to go to war with Iran, but we just don't have it in the budget? Have you ever heard them make that argument, right? No. You've never heard that argument, right? They have never made an argument about we don't have enough money to kill people and blow things up. For some reason, we always have enough money to kill people and blow things up. It's called war. But then when it comes to domestic spending, domestic policies, we all of a sudden have to count pennies. We have to pinch pennies. We have to tell you we don't have enough money for Meals on Wheels or HBCUs. And I'm giving it to all administrations, Democrats and Republicans, but they don't debate about the cost of war. The only people that debate about the cost of war are progressives. Those are the only ones that hold both parties accountable to the price tag connected to it.
Well, Doc, I think I've seen a shift in this. I think that the mess that we saw getting out of Afghanistan, I've seen people who are very establishment even saying like, maybe we should invest more at home. Maybe we should think about more. But it took them 20 damn years to get there, brother. Well, as your mother probably never told you, better late than never, right? I think there's definitely a goalpost moving in that area, especially as it pertains to younger people. I'm a conservative guy, but I don't think the war in Afghanistan really served any purpose beyond just a bunch of spending. Of course, a lot of war spending does get reinvested in our own economy, which is something people tend to glaze over. But that doesn't mean that it's the highest and best use of money. At heart, I'm a technocrat, and I believe that we need to be the world leader. And if that means investing at home, then so be it. It can't all be military spending. That isn't the highest and best use of all of our money always.
Yeah, and listen, man, I'm with you on that. I think the whole concept of military spending is not even defense spending. They call it that, but the vast majority of that money goes to so many special interest groups that are involved in the war machine that I'm really surprised more Republicans don't say this is fiscally irresponsible to continue to do this. But I think you all are getting there. I do think that there is a slight shift in how we do this. So let me bring this back to the forefront. Left-leaning policies And I'm not just talking about economic policy. Sometimes we tend to make these debates and arguments about economic policy. It's also about non-economic policy that creates economic growth. For example, training. Training is not considered an economic policy. But you and I agree that when you have a more trained workforce, you have more people working, contributing back to the revenue taxation system.
I guess where I peel off is, let me give you a very specific example, right?
Yeah.
So that we're not speaking in nebulous nature, right? The Dodd-Frank bill, right? Obviously, everybody knew after the financial crisis that these financial institutions needed some sort of regulation, right? So I met Congressman Frank. He's a very nice gentleman. And I think he meant well, right? But the Dodd-Frank bill ended up shrinking the number of Black-owned banks down to about 20, 21, right? And as we all know, as you know well, Doc, we tend to loan to people who look like us, right? So here's how a well-intended policy completely backfired and really affects Black and brown entrepreneurship. If you create a regulatory regime that is too hard to follow, you only have super banks. And super banks are a big problem for economic efficiency in so many ways. So that's specifically where I peel off. Investing in people, sure. Americans always deserve the right to economically empower themselves, and government is definitely part of that solution. Now, on the other hand, regulation, and I know there are millions of regulations out there. A lot of them very well intended, very well thought out by the best and the brightest, but they fail miserably and oftentimes do exactly the opposite of what they intended to do.
Let me give you a policy that I think you can understand. Now, sometimes I will bring this up to somebody who leans to the right and they just completely brush it off. Under President Barack Obama, Black men and women were starting to make close to what their white counterparts made at the same job with similar experience and education, all right? That's always been a problem. We have this disparity even when it comes to men and women working, right? We have pay disparity in America. And employers take advantage of this pay disparity because of workplace or marketplace opportunities to do so. They're not held to a regulatory standard, or if there is a standard, it's just an infraction without enforcement, so they don't really do it in practice. So under President Obama, the number actually started to move in the right direction, where when it started, 68 cents on the dollar, it moved to 70 cents, 72 cents, 74 cents, 75 cents, moving in the right direction, right? Then Trump comes in, and the number, and this is based on your job labor statistics, the number started to move in the opposite direction again, literally backwards. You look at the analysis, there's a cause and effect relationship with all this stuff. The Department of Justice, let me make the case.
Sure, of course.
The Department of Justice, under the direction of Trump, sent a memo out and said that they would no longer aggressively target these particular companies who habitually violated these protection policies. Well, what did that do? That meant that Black folks and brown folks in the marketplace, especially with these major corporations, they started to make less on the dollar again. It's not an economic policy, but it's a policy that adversely affected those who were Black, brown, and also women in the workplace. That's a Republican issue. That is a bona fide Republican issue. They say things like pay disparity is not a real thing, right? That's a problem, brother, because that's not helping us move forward.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say the pay disparity isn't a thing, but if I could channel, my super Republican colleagues right now at this moment, They would tell you that, Black and brown unemployment was at an all-time low. I think there's many problems with the unemployment statistic. It really doesn't capture a lot of things. But when we're trying to right historical wrongs, we have to find a way to empower people to economically empower themselves. And I think there's a line that's very hard, right, to find between enforcement, right, and making companies do the right thing. I think the goalpost has been moved on this as well. It's definitely since last summer, if you think about it. I was interviewing a female entrepreneur, and one of the things that they created was, if you see a panel with all men at a conference, they invite you to tag them, right? And take pictures of the panel of all men. And I think that's the same case in a lot of corporate America. Corporate America is being shamed into pay equality, into racial equality, et cetera. So that has done, cultural changes have done a lot more than the government could ever do in my book.
Well, I would like to debate you on that point. I don't have time. Producers are giving me the wrap-up signal. But I do want to remind you, and every time this is said, I must correct the record. When we talk about technical employment, because a lot of times the argument is, well, more black people were employed under Trump than in the history of modern history in America. No, not really. Here's why. Because the number that you're quoting, the administration used as well, is called a U3 rating system. And the U3 rating system said, if you had 1 hour of technical employment for that survey month, they counted you as employed. The real system is a U6 rating system that actually provides context to the data. It says, how much are they getting paid? Is it seasonal? Is it part-time? Is it contractual? Was it a one-day job? All right. And under the U6 rating system, black unemployment and underemployment was well over 20%, but they decided to use the U3 rating system in order to make their numbers look good. So you can't use that. And once again, the conclusion of the data is adversarial to the proclamation of the administration, because the conclusion of the data showed that black family or black household median income actually decreased under the Trump administration and did not increase. And lastly, brother, you said earlier that you cannot attribute these economic policies just to the federal government or to a particular president. But you guys kind of like it both ways. You say that in defense of bad numbers.
You guys, I've been grouped with the people. You might as well have told me
conservatives. Conservatives.
No good sentence ever started with you people.
Conservatives. Well, I did say you people. But conservatives, those that lean to the right, especially on some of these policies, you all tend to want to take the credit or give credit to Donald Trump for numbers that you can spin as positives, but then numbers that are absolutely negative, you say, oh, well, there are other variables involved that cannot be attributed to the president.
All administrations are a mixed bag. That's why I'm a registered independent.
Okay.
I definitely think the Trump administration has its problems, and we're watching the Biden administration have their own problems of their own. And in a lot of cases, the administrations strongly resemble each other. And that might put me with a lot in common with the progressives, right? I often sit with people, and progressives are the ones who I best connect with because they agree with me. A lot of the Biden playbook is coming straight out of the Trump playbook. And that's because being in power is hard. It's hard to move institutions, they're slow. And
I don't buy it. I don't buy that. It's not hard to do the right thing. Biden, let me be very clear. Biden is effing up, okay? I say that clearly. The economic policy, the lack of negotiation or fortitude to continue to push for a more progressive agenda, what he promised us to deliver, all of that. So no, I mean, the HBCU funding went from 45 billion to 1.42 billion. It's insane, brother. It doesn't make sense that we are literally voting in policy over personality, because the personality of Joe Biden is what it is, right? We voted in policy. We said we wanted a policy agenda that has not been delivered to those who supported him, at least not yet. Okay, and I will have to hold him accountable.
I guess we could have been a lot more conservative in the Trump era, and now we're living on the other side of that. Is somehow the American system always tends to, moderation somehow always wins. And you're absolutely correct. People voted for Joe Biden because they wanted these policies, but somehow with the checks and balances, we always end up somewhere in the middle, and not everyone's happy about it.
Damn that game. I'm so sick and tired of this middle game politics. We'll talk about that at another point. I think it's time that we actually do subscribe to a more progressive agenda in the United States of America. We've had the far right agenda. We've had the corporate democratic agenda. It's time that we actually have a progressive agenda in America, because the progressive policies that many of us have come to love were put in place by those who were left of the Democrats of that era. And now we cannot live without them. All right, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being on the show.
Always great to be here. Thanks, Doc.
Absolutely. All right, conversation, don't forget, all right? Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.